I wake up to the same old fight, chasing shadows in the night. Promises made, but I let them fade. Caught in the cycle, I'm feeling betrayed. Round and round, I'm losing ground. Trying to break free, but I can't see. These negative patterns are haunting me. Nights turn to days, I'm losing my way. Thought I found peace, but it's led me astray. Chasing the high, but it only brings pain. The more I run, the less I gain.
Everybody, hey, and welcome to another session of Taureca Say It Again. And today we are going to focus on a particular chapter from my book, Addictive Patterns. And the title of this chapter is called Not Your Bitch. Yep, you heard me. Not your B-I-T-C-H. Now, I'm going to read a little excerpt from my book because I find so many people are caught up in this cycle of verbal abuse, this cycle of disrespect, this cycle of being called out of their names. And for some, it's normal behavior is continuous. For some, just attached, stuck on it. Some, they're in fear in accepting it because they don't want to lose maybe what they have going on. And we're going to dig deep into this chapter. But first, let me put this disclaimer out there. Because the B word is a part of my vocabulary, I might spell it, I might say B, but I will not be pronouncing it phonetically. Okay? All right, here we go. Not your B-I-T-C-H. Yes, I can be a B. I can be the B that leaves, or I can be the B that puts you out. I can be the B that don't tolerate your foolishness. I can be the B that cuts you off from all interactions. I can be the B who cuts you out of my life completely. Queens, any form of disrespect should be intolerable. And I'm saying queens because I'm one. But king, if you're accepting this same type behavior, I'm talking to you as well. Allowing your partner to call you out of your name is unacceptable. Allowing a man who hasn't fully developed mentally to demean you as a woman is simply degrading. It's disgusting. I actually experienced being called to be in my marriage a few times. The first time I heard this disgusting word part my husband's lips, I was in total shock. Yes, he apologized. Yes, I accepted it. And we got over it. About 2 years later, the same word fell from out of his mouth. At that point, I'm looking around in disbelief because we've been here before. He promised to never say that word again to me. But somehow, we found our way back to this same word that we vowed to never be heard again in our household. Now listen, I need my dignity. Don't try to take my dignity. Not just reacting to disrespect, but here's the hard truth. Most people don't allow disrespect because they like it. It's not something they like. But they may tolerate it because there's something deeper here. As I mentioned, it could be fear. Fear of losing the person. Fear of the dynamics, that family dynamics changing. Attachment. Loving the person so much. History. We go way back. We got so many years together. I don't want to have to start over again. Or hoping that things will change. And I think that's the biggest one right there, hoping and praying that things will change. But somehow you get caught up in that cycle and it becomes a consistent behavior. Now, I want to unpack this chapter just a little bit. That cycle that I mentioned, for some, it only continues when the apology becomes more powerful than the pattern. I'm going to say that again. It can continue when the apology becomes more powerful than the pattern. It's like you accept it and don't try to break that pattern. Now, for some, that might be emotionally invested. Like, I've already put so much into this. Like I said, going back to the time and the years invested. Continues to allow this to happen. That hope addiction. Hoping, praying that things will change. Believing that this time, that's it. No more. It's not going to happen again. Another, normalization. Thinking that this is normal. It's okay to talk back and forth and disrespect each other. Especially if they've seen this dynamic growing up. And I always tell you, them younger relationships, that's what shapes and molds some of these adult relationships we have today. Fear of loss, being alone. It could feel worse than being disrespected. So you rather accept the disrespect because you don't want to lose that person or be alone. Confusion between love and tolerance. Thinking patience, but accepting anything, because a person, they quick to say, forgive. Okay, I can forgive, but do I have to accept this type behavior? And what does that look like for me if he chooses not to make that change? So I need both of us getting what we want. So if you want me to show patience and tolerance and forgiveness, I'm going to need you to make the change. Yes. Let's reciprocate. Love should not require you to shrink. And I tell you in this book, I'm not dumbing down for nobody. I'm not being silenced for nobody. Or simply accepting any verbal abuse or harm to my psyche. That's not what we're doing. Tell me, when is enough enough? What's going to be the turning point? And I really feel that these are some hard conversations that some of these relationships should have. The real shift. What happens when the pattern becomes predictable? Like you already know. Or he or she, they're going to blow up. What happens when the apology feels rehearsed? Like they don't mean it. It's not genuine. Is there going to be a transformation at the end of this apology? Or we just, again, in this cycle, I'm sorry. Right. You heard Beyonce. Sorry. I ain't sorry. Sorry. I ain't sorry. Yeah. Sounded like a broken record. But at the end of the day, we want the behavior to match the words. And if the behavior doesn't match the words, what does that look like? Sometimes in our relationship, we start feeling less like ourselves. And for me, I feel that's when it becomes a choice. It's no longer a mistake. I'm going to say that again. That's when I feel it becomes a choice in accepting those behaviors and no longer a mistake. You got to set boundaries. You have to have standards. And having these conversations and going on trips with friends. I think those type things help with reminding you. You got to set boundaries. I'm not okay with being spoken to like that. Have those conversations. If it happens again, I'm going to remove myself from this conversation. Or guess what? Even this relationship, if I have to. Now, I call this the Big Five Talk because in this conversation, I just said that I'll remove myself if I have to, right? Oh, I'm leaving. I'm done. Blah, blah, blah. But are you ready? Are you prepared to enforce it? Back up what you say? Or we just saying something because it sounds good? What we don't want to do is lose ourselves. That's when that self-doubt starts to set in. That self-worth start diminishing. Respect shouldn't be something you have to beg for, y'all. Think about that. Respect shouldn't be something you have to beg for or tell a person. The moment you stop excusing the behavior is the moment the pattern loses its power. I like that one. Think about when you have conversations or there's a particular reaction your partner may always give you and then they switch it up. You're going to start to wonder like, what's going on? Why he or she is not responding the way they typically respond? Is it somebody else? Why all of a sudden this calmness? We trying to think. But the moment you stop excusing the behavior is the moment the pattern, it loses its power. Sometimes we got to speak up, y'all. Sometimes we have to put our foot down, as to say. Say what you mean and mean what you say. No wavering. I'm not your bitch. I'm the standard. You either gonna level up to it or it's walking out the door. All right. Please do not forget to like, share, subscribe on YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Have a good one.